Adventures into the Unknown, issue number 1, fall 1948. This comic book series that had a good long run, over 100 and something issues, is credited as the first horror anthology comic book series of original content, and it predates EC Horror Comics. Beautiful illustration, jam-packed, 50 pages, like a bunch of different stories ranging from 10 pages long to like 1-page stories. I'm just gonna pick, they had like 7 stories I think in this one. I'm gonna pick the few that were the best and that stood out to me. First off, in the opening scroll, they kind of have like a skeleton, their kind of version of the Crypt Keeper, even though it's not. It's just an editor's note telling you that there's no such thing as ghosts, and that's all superstition that's been around as folklore for hundreds of years, and enjoy our fiction on ghosts. And so they started off. The first story is The Werewolf Stalks. I'm going to give this one a B-. It's set up in northern Canada, Timberwolf country. This guy traps timberwolves out in the wilderness, and he ends up caging this one timberwolf who ends up being a werewolf man. And as he's caged up he transforms into the wolf man, complete with his red flannel and lumberjack outfit and suspenders, and you're like, wow, all in a cage. And so his wife is all paranoid because she knows about werewolves, and the guy is just clueless to werewolf mythology. And so he ends up selling the werewolf to the zoo, and the werewolf ends up escaping, and the guy ends up to revenge for capturing him. And the werewolf ends up back in Canada, and he ends up dying. This is how he dies. The guy stabs him with a silver letter opener. Of course, B- that story. Next story, It Walked by Night. This is a great story. It's kind of like a Scooby-Doo setup where it's set in the 1700s. This guy kills this one other guy, and he gets a curse placed on him, so it jumps through the centuries of this lineage of this guy's family, or the killer's family is cursed throughout the centuries, and then it comes to present day in this era, which is the 1950s, and the estate of the killer has been turned into a hotel, and the only living relative is there. He's acting as a ghost and haunting all the guest resort residents on the New England coastline. And what ends up happening is half the guest leaves, and it's about to go out of business until he's found out to be that it was just a hoax. And what ends up happening is a real ghost, the guy of the first victim that was killed in the 1700s, comes back for payback and ends up killing the guy as a ghost. So there is ghosts. That's the conclusion of that one. It's a pretty deep 10-page story. Nice twist ending. On to the last one that caught my eye. Pretty standard, Haunted House. That's what it's called, Haunted House. And in this one, it's this heiress. All she has to do is spend one night in this house. It's a pretty standard story, and she wins the mansion. And they use the same kind of story and twist as the other story that I was just talking about. They're haunted by the ghost, but what ends up happening is it's the lawyer who is acting as the ghost, the lawyer and his assistant, because they're trying to claim the whole estate for themselves. And so they get outed, and the ghost of this guy, her uncle, ends up showing up and defending them and shooting down the lawyer with his gun. So ghosts do exist. That's the twist of that one. Same one as the other one. Alright, I give it overall, this comic book, a B. It's pretty good for a first issue horror series. They really set the standard for the next decade. It's dark and grim, and there's a bunch of other short stories that stand out in this one. You could read it on comicbookplus.com. I recommend that. Golden Age horror comics for free. You don't even have to download them. You could just scroll down and read them page by page. This was JBM from Villain News. Mr. Creepshow 9. Click on the channel for more Golden Age comic book reviews. I'm out.